I was born on the banks of the Murray. Yorta Yorta is my mother's tribal stand.
Uncle William Cooper, born in 1860, was already in his 70s as he fought the injustices Indigenous people were facing, but when he came across persecution others were facing, he fought that as well. At the same time, on the other side of the world, persecution of Jewish people was happening like it's not been seen before. On November the 9th, 1938, synagogues and other Jewish institutions were burnt to the ground on a night that became known as Kristallnacht.
William Cooper was decades ahead of his time. Perhaps, given his remarkable leadership in other areas, we should not be so surprised that he reacted so swiftly and compassionately when information concerning the horrors of Kristallnacht reached Australia. The protest undertaken by the Australian Aborigines League against the cruel persecution of the Jewish people by the Nazi government of Germany stands out. Perhaps also we can understand today that the ready concern demonstrated by the Australian Aborigines League drew powerfully on their own experience. That experience being one of a people who were themselves dispossessed in their own homeland, denied citizenship and other basic rights. As an Australian representative, I feel deeply humbled that it fell to one of our own dispossessed non-citizens to stand up for what was right against the horrors of Nazi persecution.
2008 will be remembered as the era of two important words: sorry and thank you.
Yeah, look, thanks everybody for coming along to support us today. It's been a great walk this morning. We've stopped up at the William Cooper Justice Centre, which was officially opened on the 6th of October. I'm sure some of you know, but probably not all, that the new court precinct up here in the corner of William and Lonsdale, on the 6th of October this year, was named the William Cooper Justice Centre. You know, that's an amazing feat for a man who fought all his life seeking justice, all his life.
Our Tracy Alexander met them on their visit to Israel.
Retracing his footsteps, Aboriginal elder 89-year-old Alfred Turner is a long way from home. Once again in Israel, this time with his son, to visit this plaque where his grandfather's name, William Cooper, has been enshrined.
Oh, it means a lot to be here with Dad and everyone that's come here, especially to see William Cooper's name on the wall. I've heard so much about it over the years, I just haven't had a chance to get it, but finally come here to Israel. Wow.
Tonight we reflect on how one brave Aboriginal man stood up 3/4 of a century ago because he saw injustice, he then spoke out against injustice and urged others to do the same. For the future, let us all resolve again tonight to keep alive the spirit of William Cooper. I thank you.
Indeed, the march that William Cooper organised and the presentation of that petition that was reenacted today was the first public demonstration against the Nazi regime and the treatment of the Jews in Europe in the world.
We protest wholeheartedly at the cruel persecution of the Jewish people by the Nazi government in Germany.
Nice to meet you. There are millions. I want to thank you. This is the building that Grandfather wanted a letter to to reach to Hitler at that time.
I am pleased to have the honor to recognize formally, on behalf of the government of the Federal Republic of Germany, both the protest note and your grandfather's commitment. As Federal Foreign Office Special Representative for relations with Jewish organizations, I am also pleased to have this opportunity to express, on behalf of the federal government and the people of Germany, my profound respect and sincere gratitude to you, your grandfather, and the Australian Aborigines League. We thank you for standing up for the Jews in Germany during the Nazi regime and for keeping alive the memory of this courageous act of solidarity against the Nazis.
They marched to the German ambassador residence and knocked on the door, and they wouldn't come out and speak to them. So the security moved them on, they told them they had to move, and they left the letter of protest with the security people.
Scheindler Gebschu Schneider. Sklar Yosef.
I was born on the banks of the Murray. Yorta Yorta is my mother's tribal stand.
He developed letters to prime ministers and to politicians of all stripes. He was a trade unionist and wrote to the unions. He wrote to the churches. And in fact, when he wasn't getting results, he managed to garner 1,814 names onto a petition which was forwarded, he believed, to the monarch of Australia, King George V. And in that document he wrote, "Your petitioners therefore humbly pray that your Majesty will intervene on our behalf and through the instrument of your Majesty's government in the Commonwealth of Australia to prevent the extinction of the Aboriginal race and better conditions for all, and grant us power to propose a Member of Parliament in the person of our own blood." Unfortunately, Joe Lyons, Prime Minister, let down William Cooper and never forwarded the document from his Parliament to the Buckingham Palace. So incensed was Uncle William that he joined together with William Ferguson and Jack Patton in Sydney on the sesquicentenary, the 150th anniversary of white colonisation, and instead of celebrating, they organised a day of mourning in Australia Hall. Some 79 years later, Uncle Boydie himself was able to enter that very hall.
Always writing letters. He wrote letters to kings and prime ministers and politicians, whoever he thought might help him get some help for his people.
Uncle Boydie was on the road again, this time to Sydney, to meet Prince William at Admiralty House. The Australian Parliament interceded, and an aide of then Prime Minister Tony Abbott prevented the document on the grounds of protocol to be handed to Prince William. So close.
This is a petition that the grandfather had in 1937 to send to the King of England, and also a letter that he wrote to the King about the treatment of Aboriginal people in Australia. Well, I'm just taking this up to Canberra to present it to the Governor-General.
May I call you Uncle Boydie?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much indeed for dropping in to see me. I've been looking forward to this moment. I do this all the time.
In In August of 2014, Peter Cosgrove found himself at Balmoral Castle, where he became knighted Sir Peter, and in that meeting he had a very special delivery from the hands of Uncle Boydie. Back in 1917, his son Daniel Cooper had enlisted in the Allied Infantry Forces and sadly was killed in action in Belgium.
Star, the British War Medal and the Victory Medal. Today,
The following year, in fact, the image of Dan Cooper was immortalised on the walls of the Shepparton City Council. In fact, the mural of Uncle Dan complements a beautiful mural of Uncle William Cooper himself, also in the city of Shepparton. And the third piece of art has been the unveiling of a statue of Uncle William Cooper in the centre of Queen's Park.
I met Uncle Boydie here in Israel last year, and it was a great privilege. Uncle Boydie was here with his family to tell the story about his grandfather, William Cooper. So Uncle Boydie, happy birthday.
And defiantly marched to the German grounds. William Cooper. Whoa.
William Cooper had the vision of a greater picture, and he understood the need for all people to look after one another and not just to be focused on themselves. He understood that when you look out, you see people, you see humankind. You don't see a black person, a white person, a Jewish person, a Muslim person. You just see people, and we are all responsible for one another.
What can we do to preserve the legacy of the one man who stood tall, not allowing the silence of the world to overwhelm him?
Someday I know I'll be returning, like the legend of my tribal